Thank you, Ag Silver Radio, for this fine suggestion. It's about time I get right on to it. Let's see what it's like to go hardcore parkour. Greetings, my dear viewers. It is I, Drahon, and welcome back to Pathfinder Hero Frame Blueprint, where we take a look at some interesting character concepts and see how they might be able to work within Pathfinder 2nd Edition. I will lay out the framework of these character concepts, and it is up to you to flavor them how you wish. Today we are taking a look at the Parkour Master, something I did for Dungeons & Dragons a while back. And today I thought I would go over it in Pathfinder. Now, parkour is being able to not only jump, but also scale high walls and land without hurting yourself. Definitely an interesting set of skills, and a sport that does have some intrigue to it, and is very complex, even if it looks simple. So how would we be able to do these rather difficult and most definitely death-defying stunts within Pathfinder? Well, in order to do that, we need to look at the rules of jumping, climbing, and most definitely for falling. So let's go ahead and take a look. The first thing we need to look at is leap. This is an action that you are able to take, a careful short jump. You can leap up to 10 feet horizontally if your speed is at least 15 feet, or up to 15 feet horizontally if your speed is at least 30 feet. You land in the space where your leap ends, meaning you can typically clear a 5-foot gap or a 10-foot gap if your speed is 30 or more. If you leap vertically, you can move up to 3 feet vertically and 5 feet horizontally onto an elevated surface. Jumping a greater distance requires using the athletics skill. High jump. You stride, then make a vertical leap and attempt a DC 30 athletics check to increase the height of your jump. If you did not stride at least 10 feet, you automatically fail your check. This DC might be increased or decreased due to the situation as determined by the GM. On a critical success, you increase the maximum vertical distance to 8 feet, or increase the maximum vertical distance to 5 and the maximum horizontal to 10. Success. Increase the maximum vertical distance to 5 feet. Failure. You leap normally. Critical failure. You don't leap at all and instead fall prone in your space, basically tripping over your 2 feet. Long jump. You stride, then make a horizontal leap and attempt an athletics check to increase the length of your jump. The DC of the athletics check is equal to the total distance in feet you're attempting to move during your leap. So you need to succeed at a DC 20 check to leap 20 feet. You can't leap farther than your speed. If you didn't stride at least 10 feet, or if you attempt to jump in a different direction than your stride, you automatically fail your check. This DC might be increased or decreased due to the situation as determined by the GM. Success. Increase the maximum horizontal distance your leap to the desired distance. Failure. You leap normally. Critical failure. You leap normally, but then fall and land prone. That seems simple enough. What about climbing? Well, falling, actually. Since we do have a failing to jump and actually falling on our face, what if we fail in another way and just fall? When you fall more than 5 feet, you take bludgeoning damage equal half of the distance you fell when you land. Treat falls longer than 1,500 feet as though they were 1,500 feet, or 750 damage. If you take any damage from a fall, you land prone. You fall about 500 feet in the first round of falling, and about 1,500 feet each round thereafter. So you go to terminal velocity after the first round. Seems fair. You're not instantly crashing to the ground, and there's a chance of you being saved from your fall in a subsequent turn. You can grab an edge as a reaction to reduce the damage from some falls. In addition, if you fall into water, snow, or another relatively soft substance, you can treat the fall as though it were 20 feet shorter, or 30 feet shorter if you intentionally dove in. The effective reduction can't be greater than the depth. So when falling 10-foot deep water, you treat the fall as 10 feet shorter. That makes sense. Falling on a creature. If you land on a creature, that creature must attempt a DC 15 reflex save. Landing exactly on a creature after a long fall is almost impossible. Critical success. The creature takes no damage. Success. The creature takes bludgeoning damage equal to 1/4 the fall damage you took. Failure. The creature takes bludgeoning damage equal to half the fall damage you took. The creature takes the same amount of bludgeoning damage you took from the fall, so it's not quite the same as Dungeons & Dragons fall damage, where it cuts the damage in half and you both each take half. Interesting. Falling objects. A dropped object takes damage just like a falling creature. If the object lands on a creature, that creature can attempt a reflex save using the same rules as for a creature falling on another creature. Hazards and spells that involve falling objects, such as Rock Slide, have their own rules about how they interact with creatures and the damage they deal. Climb speed is the next thing we'll go over. A climb speed allows you to move up or down inclines and vertical surfaces. Instead of needing to attempt athletics checks to climb, you automatically succeed and move up to your climb speed instead of the listed distance. You might still have to attempt athletics checks to climb in hazardous conditions. To climb extremely difficult surfaces, or to cross horizontal planes such as ceilings, you can also choose to roll an athletics check to climb rather than accept an automatic success in hopes of getting a critical success. Your climb speed grants you a +4 circumstance bonus to athletics checks to climb. If you have a climb speed, you're not flat-footed while climbing. And we actually have climb DCs for different objects, such as doors, walls, and portcullises. So I would recommend checking those out. And speaking of Dungeon Masters making adjustments, we do have this adjustments table. We actually know about this adjustments table from the Pathfinder Succubus video. So, yeah, this table gets used a good deal. Next is difficult terrain, because there are instances when you are just going to be walking on the ground normally, but you still have terrain in the way, like a hill or a bunch of jagged rocks. I'm not going to go over all that, so I'll just leave it on screen for you. Next, we have the step action. Your speed is at least 10 feet is your requirement, and you move carefully 5 feet. Unlike most types of movements, stepping doesn't trigger reactions such as attacks of opportunity. That can be triggered by move actions or upon leaving or entering a square. You can't step into difficult terrain, and you can't step using a speed other than your land speed, so no step flying or step swimming. Speaking of stride, this is your movement action. In Dungeons & Dragons, this was sort of a one-time free action, but in Pathfinder, you actually have to use one of your 3 actions to stride, to move. You move up to your speed. And you also have the stand ruling in case you do happen to fall prone. You need to be able to stand up. And then there is take cover. This probably isn't going to be used that often for parkour runners, but some games do have you dodging projectiles, such as lasers or bullets. I think that was in Mirror's Edge. Anyway, according to take cover, you press yourself against a wall or duck behind an obstacle to take better advantage of cover. If you would have standard cover, you instead gain greater cover, which provides a +4 circumstance bonus to AC, to reflex saves against area effects, and to stealth checks to hide, sneak, or otherwise avoid detection. Otherwise, you gain the benefits of standard cover, a +2 circumstance bonus instead. This lasts until you move from your current space. Use an attack action, become unconscious, or end this effect as a free action. Let's go ahead and get into the build. We are going to need an ancestry. This doesn't really matter for the purposes of this concept, but for this build in particular, I thought I would go ahead and pick one. I think that there are 2 ancestries that would best fit this build. One of them being the elf. The other one is a, how's it pronounced again? Glamoria? Goromla? I can't remember the other one. It was one of the freaky ancestries, but for this build, we're going with elf. This is because we can get the heritage of ancient elf, as you can see on screen. In your life, you've dabbled in many paths and many styles. The typical ancient elf is at least 100 years old, though you might be younger at the GM's discretion. Remember this, Dungeon Masters. Choose a class other than your own. You gain the multi-class dedication feat for that class, even though you don't meet its level prerequisite. You must still meet the other prerequisites to gain the feat. So for our Ancient Elf's dedication feat, we are going with Rogue, giving us access to surprise attack and a skill feat known as Catfall. And for our ancestry feat, we're going with Nimble Elf, which will increase our speed by 5 feet, making us a speed of 35 feet. And thanks to our rogue dedication, we also get access to the trained skills of stealth and thievery. With our Catfall, we actually treat falls 10 feet shorter. And if we are experts in acrobatics, we treat them as 25 feet shorter. If we are master, they are treated as 50 feet shorter. If it is a legendary acrobatics, you always land on your feet and don't take damage regardless of the distance of the fall. That's kind of broken, in my opinion. But it does incentivize you to make sure you are legendary in acrobatics, as well as athletics. This is something that you're going to need to work with when making this character. Make sure you're legendary in athletics and acrobatics. They are a very important skill to have when it comes to the parkour character. Speaking of which, your ability boosts are dexterity and intelligence, and you also get one free ability boost. I would recommend going for strength. You do get the ability flaw in constitution, so I would recommend making sure you are able to increase your constitution again later on. Probably with your free ability boost that you get when you first make your character. Next is the background. I would recommend going for the runner. It doesn't entirely matter which background you choose, but I do think the runner is going to be preferable, especially since you get the free feat of quick jump, which lets you use your high jump and long jump as a single action instead of 2 actions. And you don't need to perform the initial stride, nor do you fail if you don't stride 10 feet, which is hilarious. You get trained in athletics and a specific city lore. This makes perfect sense, since a lot of parkour experts know the terrain of the city they are in and are running through. For your ability boost, go with strength, and for your free one, go with dexterity. Next is your class. I would recommend going with swashbuckler. A lot of parkour artists use flamboyant movements and specialized tricks when doing their different athletic skills. Most of the time because they got bored with just simple jumps. So they do mid-air stunts, and I think that works perfectly with the swashbuckler, especially when some of the features the swashbuckler has is actually still useful for a parkour enthusiast. Your ability boost is dexterity. You get extra hit points equal to 10 plus your constitution modifier. You're an expert in perception, which works wonderfully since you are going to need to try to find alternate routes or anybody that is trying to stop you from making your runs. Your saving throws, you are trained in fortitude and are an expert in reflex and will. For your skills, we have acrobatics, society, crafting, medicine, nature, performance, and survival. These are just the ones that I picked. You don't have to grab these exactly, though again, I do recommend having that acrobatic skill. You're trained in simple, martial, and unarmed attacks, as well as light armor and unarmored defense. You have access to precise strike, panache, confident finisher, the swashbuckler style of gymnast, and the class feat of nimble dodge, which gives you a +2 circumstance bonus to your AC against a triggering attack. Now, we're going to go over some important feats that you are going to need when making a parkour style character. I have listed everything here. These are the ones that I find to be useful for my particular build. You do not have to pick these exact class or ancestry feats. So if you want to, you can use them for your build, but the most important feats are going to be the skills and the general feats. For your skill feats, in alphabetical order, not exactly level order, we have Acrobatics Mastery, Assurance, making sure we go for Athletics for it, Cloud Jump, Combat Climber, Kip Up, this lets you stand up rather quickly, Nimble Crawl, being able to crawl at your normal speed, Powerful Leap, Quick Climb, Quick Squeeze, Rapid Mantle. This is where you are hanging onto a cliff or ledge and are able to pull yourself back up onto the actual surface where that ledge is on. Rolling Landing, very important for parkour since it does help you minimize the pressure put onto you when you make your falls. You have Steady Balance, in case you're on a tightrope. Wall Jump, very popular trick among parkour experts. And I picked Water Sprint, since it seemed like a useful one to have. For your general feats, you have Expeditious Search. Most of the time in these parkour-style games, you are looking for something very important, so it makes sense to have this feat in particular. Next is Fleet, increasing your movement speed once again, so you'll probably have a 40-foot movement speed after everything's said and done. Next is Incredible Initiative, making sure you're going before any of your enemies. Pick up the pace, and Toughness. For your class feats, since we do have some rogue feats in here, you are going to need to make sure you have rogue dedication in order to get some of these feats. But not all of them are based off of the rogue dedication feat, such as the Flamboyant Athlete and the Nimble Roll. I thought that the Skill Mastery feat was pretty useful since it made your athletics a master level skill and survival an expert level skill. At least those are the ones that I chose. You also have Swaggering Initiative and Tumble Behind, which is both a swashbuckler feat and a rogue feat. For the ancestry feats, I picked Elf Step, Elven Verve, Tree Climber, and Unwavering Min. And that is all I have for you today, my dear viewers. I didn't go into an in-depth level-by-level build for this one, since this is just sort of a blueprint. You can customize your build however you like. So if you find an ancestry that is better than the one I chose, let me know in the comments below. And tell me, what do you think of this parkour build? Until next time, this has been Drehan, and I am offline.